Hi, I'm back. We're going to be talking about perspective and point of view, primary sources and secondary sources. So, how do we know what happened way back when? I mean, why do we study social studies? Why do we study history? And how do we know what happened? Well, there's things we call primary and secondary sources. So, I'm just going to do a little reveal here. So, we know what happened way back when because of primary sources, like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, my fave, of artifacts we may have dug up along the way and that we can study and learn more from. Secondary sources are fine too. Those are your textbooks. Those are your secondhand sources, your encyclopedias. They kind of sound boring when I think about it. Historical records. Historical records. Now with the internet, well, we've always had the internet in your world, we can look up anything. And we can use those things to draw inferences and conclusions about what happened in history. Let me see, did I forget anything? Ooh, artifacts, we're good. Okay, so these are examples of primary sources. What do you notice about the data or data, however you choose? Okay, obviously this is 1910, this is 2010, it was projected. We have male, female, we have our percent of population, you have your age group. What's happening over the course of 100 years, right? This is your lifespan. So obviously people are living longer now. And it's still pretty level on male and female. Um, but 85 plus, there's more females than males that are living, which I always think is interesting. Notice that this comes from the US Census Bureau. Other examples, a census, okay, can give us percentages on ethnicities in our country. Also, these are examples of primary documents. Excuse me, not primary documents. Well, they might be, yes, primary documents and artifacts. So we have someone's old glasses, what glasses used to look like a long time ago. This here is a cassette tape, ladies and gentlemen, a cassette tape. I was probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, and we used cassette tapes. Actually, when I was in high school, I used to tape love songs to my boyfriend on a cassette tape. I hope you're laughing. Here is a primary document, is a map of the United States, not obviously drawn to the scale we're used to and not drawn to scale. And this is the uncharted territory. It probably is depicting, I don't know, probably after 1780, 1790. A handbook for freshman women, 1951 and 1952, again, a primary document. Email is a primary document. Instagram is a primary document. Snapchat, primary document. It's all told from a firsthand perspective. So we're evaluating primary sources. This here is from October 1781. We know that the revolution's going on at that time. Notice that the script is very difficult to read, but if you look at it closely, you could read the French pieces of artillery. We know at this point that the French are helping us, that we're getting help from the French. We're moving quickly into the city. And this is written by George Washington. This was from his diary. So what is happening at this time and place? What do we know about this date? 1781. Well, if you look at my timeline in the back, the American Revolution. What is the creator's point of view? Told from General George Washington, he is the general of the Continental Army at the time. And his perspective is going to be different from maybe a general, like General Howe, or someone from the British side. his perspective is going to be different. He feels like he is winning the war. But if you check in with the British, they may feel like they are winning the war. So there is a different point of view and perspective depending on who tells the story. So if we take a mind walk, what activities have you done in the last 24 hours? Okay, I've listed some for you now. In the last 24 hours, we've had a fire drill. We have maybe had lacrosse practice or dance practice. Maybe you watched an NFL game last night. You've had football, you had cross country, you played outside in recess. You might have had taekwondo and flute practice in school, and maybe you went out to dinner, it was your birthday. Okay, some of these things are going to last forever. They're going to leave a trace. Okay, maybe your practice card is stored with your teacher for a very long time. Maybe you going out to dinner, your dad or your mom or whoever you went out to dinner with got a receipt, that can last for years. Maybe at cross country, you're recording your pace times. Okay, you going out to recess, I'm not sure if that's going to leave as much of a mark as, let's say, if your pace time is recorded in cross country. Okay, a lot of these things people are taking your attendance. So if you are connected to something like Sports Illustrated Play, I have to check in my kids. Those things are going to leave a trace. Are they going to leave a trace for 50 years? Maybe not. But if you just took a walk and no one really knew you took a walk, that would not leave a trace. So primary documents, historical records, they leave a trace for years to come. So what is more reliable of the sources? Is it a primary source or a secondary source? What is most trustworthy? What's most dependable? And what can you count on to be the most accurate? And that is always a primary document. Always a primary document. Okay? They are the most trustworthy, not secondary documents or secondary sources, I should say. I shouldn't say primary document. I should say primary sources. Okay. So right now we're going to categorize the following as primary sources or secondary sources. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the sheet that I have photocopied for you, or I've probably have put them into the assignment, and you can write right on top of it in the assignments piece of your teams. And what I would like you to do is decide which one of these is a primary source. So is an encyclopedia primary source or a secondary source? Okay, and you're going to write these things down. You're going to pause this, finish it, and then I'm going to click to reveal the answers. So go ahead now, pause it, find either the worksheet that I photocopied. If the photocopier is cooperating, I would have done that. If not, you'll find it as a resource and you can record your answers there. It'll look much like this sheet. So go ahead and pause it and you can fill out your answers. Hi, welcome back. Thank you for pausing it. Take a look at your answers. I'm going to click to reveal the answers here. Here we have our primary sources. In this box, Gettysburg Address, right from Lincoln's mouth. A letter from Abigail Adams. She wrote to John Adams while they were writing the Constitution. A diary from maybe a soldier from American Revolution or a nurse. An interview that was done with someone. Primary source. Declaration of Independence. Secondary sources. An encyclopedia, thesaurus, a documentary about the Civil War. If you weren't actually there, which nobody was unless you are a superhero and are immortal, you were not there. A dictionary, an article, a textbook. So there are your answers. Take some time to get those down. You can always pause this. Okay, So what you want to think about, those things that we did, right? What is going to leave a trace? What is going to disappear? Okay, so without a trace, it is most likely hard to track. I don't know why that little blue, there we go. It's most likely hard to track. There is no paper or digital trail. Okay. Leaving a trace. Can it be found in the next 10, 20, 50 years? Okay. Will it leave a trace? So these are the things you have to think about when you're looking at evidence and when we're looking at primary documents. I have something here I want you to categorize. I want you to turn and talk with the person next to you. This also will either, I think, will be found, this will be found in your teams for the resources. Just decide if it's a primary source or a secondary source. Is an encyclopedia a primary source or a secondary source? I'll do the first one with you. So an encyclopedia, we know, is a secondary source. Okay. Documentary about the Civil War, dictionary, and interview is a primary source. So that's what you'll write there in the box. Perspective. Have you listened to or read The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolfe? You'll come to know that his name is Alexander Wolfe. And it's told from the perspective of the wolf, the big bad wolf, right? It's not told from the perspectives of the three little pigs. So according to the true story of the three little pigs, according to Big Bad Wolf, we're going to match the information with its source. So the real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Absolutely, that's the perspective of the wolf. He threatened that he'd blow our house in. Whose perspective is that from? It's being told by the pig's perspective. The boiling pot was just self-defense, told from the wolf's perspective. My nose started to itch. I sneezed and accidentally destroyed the house. He had a cold. He was just trying to find sugar for the cake for his dear granny. He blew his house in and ate my brother, told from the perspective of the pig. The guy's house just fell down. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Right? Alexander Wolfe, it wasn't me. It's not my fault. That's part of my diet. I enjoy hamburgers. I enjoy a good hamburger too. So define perspective for us. Define perspective. Think about it. What does perspective mean? You might hear a parent say that or a teacher. It all depends on perspective. So let's take a look at what perspective may mean. Perspective, it's a point of view at what someone has experienced. If you witness the same exact incident that another student witnesses, you may tell the story much differently because you both saw it at different perspectives. You have a different lens, a different moral compass, and you have different opinions. Okay, so in teams, you'll find in the assignment that there'll be 2 resources. You'll need that to complete. You can always rewind this and watch it all over. Go back and pause.